Welcome to Chat with Leaders. Our mission is to give resilient servant leaders a platform for sharing the inspiring things that they are doing to lead their teams, customers, and themselves wisely. Today, I have the pleasure of being joined by John Boyzo, who practices real estate with Mark Spain, as well as a former director of operations in the restaurant business. Hey, John.
Hey, good morning, Chris. How are you?
Doing well. So you started in the restaurant development business. Tell me a little bit about what you did there.
Sure. So I started out actually working in restaurants when I was a kid, teenager. I've always had a really strong work ethic. Got that from my dad. He was an immigrant from Mexico, and all my life, all he ever said was do something worthwhile. His way of saying that was be somebody. That was the only way he knew how to say, do something worthwhile. He only knew construction, and to this day, that's all he does. And so he didn't want me to go down that same road. So I did restaurants because it was the easy thing for me to get into, and I ended up sticking with it for almost 20 years, and worked my way through the ranks as a teenager. And yeah, as I got into my early 20s, started managing independent restaurants, and then helped develop the chain.
So what did you, when you developed restaurants and worked with them independently, what did that role look like?
Well, it was a little bit developing as it went. I was in charge of developing a lot of procedures and processes and systems, trying to systematize the entire operation as they had it, and as new product lines came out. And so there was some of that going on, and then some marketing, and trying to help people understand what that looks like, and what the role would look like when we put people in charge of that. Basically in charge of everything. Yeah, just costs, and that's just sort of the way it worked out. We started franchising, and so I was training franchisees a lot and things like that too.
And now you're in real estate. So why did you end up switching over to do real estate?
There was a time when I had sort of just had it with the restaurant industry. Anybody who's worked in the restaurant industry for many, many years, you can understand that you either have to love it or you have to get out of it. And restaurants can trap you in a sense, because the money's really good, but the hours are crazy, but it's never really quite enough to get ahead. And so I kind of got tired of my schedule being subject to other people's schedule, meaning if someone called out of work, I had to stick around. It was just very, what's the word I'm looking for? Unpredictable. And so my mom's been in real estate for about 20 years, and she'd always been trying to get me to get into real estate. And one day I just decided it was time. It was time to make a switch, and jumped in with both feet first, and it was really, really scary. And I mean, it was, tell you the truth, we were scared for about 6 months, and then finally saw the light at the other end of the tunnel as the business developed. And I'm still here. Just came out on the other side of it doing very well.
Do you feel like being in the real estate business is your life calling?
Live calling is a funny thing. I also was a director of sales with Mark. In
Mhm.
2018, I was the number one agent in closed transactions
Oh,
for Mark Spain Real
that's
Estate.
awesome.
And I kind of got a little bit bored with the role. And, I said, Mark, hey, what's next? And he said to me, leadership. You're a leader, and that's where you need to be. And so where I ended up doing for a little while, for about a year, was a director of sales role for the Athens office. And I learned a lot, and I was stretched in a way that I never imagined I could be. If anybody out there thinks that Mark Spain isn't a next level kind of guy, yeah, he's next level for sure. And so, anyways, I think my biggest struggle with the whole thing was just accepting the calling that I have, that I am a leader in every in every area of life. So I think all of us have callings. All of us have a purpose. In most cases, most of us are afraid to accept it. And once I accepted the calling that I was a leader, it was like I finally gave myself permission to to carry out that role, and it really made a big difference.
Why do you think it's so hard to accept your life calling?
Self doubt. Um,
Yeah,
yeah, I mean that's the biggest reason. We all have this internal feeling that we're not good enough, and some of us will admit it. Some of us will admit it, and some of us won't. But at the end of the day, we all have that feeling of not being good enough. Um, and so when you believe that, or when you listen to that voice that tells you you're not good enough, yeah, I mean that is going to speak so much louder than the voice that tells you that you are good enough. Um, we just end up going to the negative, and there's a lot of science as to why that happens. But bottom line is that we all have that struggle, and so once you accept your calling, and once you give yourself permission and tell yourself you are good enough, and I mean, it really is that simple. It's not easy, but it is simple.
how do you, as a leader who runs teams and things like that, how do you help guide your team and the people that are on it to accepting what their calling is? How do you get them to, believe in themselves?
Well, it starts out by developing a relationship with people, first of all, because no one cares what you know until they know that you care. And I know that's very
That's
cliche,
very
but
true.
it's very true. So I start out by developing relationships and with everybody that I lead, and I ask a lot of questions. And when I feel like the time is right, and we start talking about um, their calling and things like that, I just tell them that I believe in them. It's amazing how few of people ever hear someone else say, I believe in you.
I have no doubt about that at all.
I mean, people literally tear up when we have these type of conversations. I had somebody tell me that one time, and it changed my world. It was somebody I held in very high regard. And when he said he believed in me as a leader, it shifted my entire mindset. And just to know that somebody that I believe in so strongly believed in me as well, that made a big difference.
It's kind of almost helps you kind of build your foundation a little bit. And I mean, whenever you get words of affirmation spoken over you, it just kind of helps you kind of root yourself and be like, yes, I did a good job. Yes, I'm called to do this. It's so affirming. Especially when a lot of people's life call is something maybe different than what they've been doing in the past. And that's, like we were talking about before, is scary, right? And so for somebody to come behind you and kind of lift you up and say, hey, you're good at this. I believe in what you're doing. You got this, is huge in the long run.
Yeah, what I discovered is along the way is that we all have dreams. Somewhere along the lines, we stop dreaming. We settle for a job that pays the bills, or we settle for a role or whatever. It's just the way that life works sometimes. And but somewhere along the lines, we stop dreaming. Somewhere along the lines, we just become the person that we think we're well I should say that we end up fulfilling this role that we think we're supposed to have, but it ends up just paying the bills and we settle. And what I've done as a leader in a lot of cases is given people permission to dream again, and given people permission to believe in themselves. And just saying those words, I give you permission to dream again. If you could do anything in the world, what would it be? Those types of questions. If money was no object, what would you do? Those types of things really, really help people begin to explore and get creative. With what do they really want out of life?
Now, if I recall from a conversation you and I previously had, you and your wife are starting a business now. Tell me a little bit about that. Did you and your wife start dreaming again together to figure out what you guys want to do?
Yeah, you know what? That started out by accident, actually. It was an opportunity that kind of fell into my lap. I just met the right people. Nobody does anything alone. There's a lot of different opinions. Some people might look at me and say, I built my business on my own. And that's true in a lot of sense, but you know what? Everybody's got customers. You can have a business without customers. Everybody has a network of people that you talk to, and suppliers, and all these different kind of things. So, but yeah, this opportunity kind of fell into my lap, and when the coronavirus pandemic came out, I ended up getting an opportunity to be released back into the marketplace as back into sales as a real estate agent with Mark again. And so I jumped all over it because I learned that a salary makes me lazy. That I've got to have that. I've got that hustle mentality, and I've got to stay out there and stay busy. And I enjoy knowing that the work that I put in is the money that I'm going to make. And
Mhm.
so anyway, when that opportunity fell into my, or I should say that when I got back into sales, I also started that other business. And just like I've always done in the past, we put systems in place, and the business took off very, very quickly. So it wasn't a dream per se. My dream is to just start businesses and end up. My wife would kill me for saying this, but start businesses and then hire some people, let them take over, start another business. Some people have called me a serial entrepreneur, and I guess I can't really argue with that. But I just love starting businesses and getting them working, operational, profitable, and then moving on to something else.
But John, thank you so much for joining me today and providing your valuable insight for all of our listeners.
Sure, it's a pleasure.
And for all of our listeners, thank you for joining us on CWL. And now go out and turn these ideas into actions.